Hello everyone and welcome on De Papier et de Rêves channel. I'm Ursula and today I will be painting with you some raspberry. Maybe raspberry are more summery subject, but I can still find them on some trees which are remaking fruits on fall. And in fact, this video is inspiring by my mom, which thinks that raspberry are very difficult to paint, and I want to show her that it's not the case, but I think she may be right. I start this painting with a Viridian paper. It's totally full of water and dripping a little bit of water on the table, and it's fixed on the table just because it's wet. I have not taped it or anything, and it will not buckle at all because of this wetness. With the paper damp as it is right now, I can play around with the color and they will mix very softly together and blend very softly. And I can help them to blend by moving the paper very freely, and you see it's make even more softer transition between the colors. My goal for this first layer is to place all the color in the place I want them to be. Here you can see I'm catching up a little bit of pigment on my brush. I use a dry brush to do this. I dry it in a paper towel and then I place it very softly on my paper to take back the pigment that have flown a bit too much. And I want this area at the center to be a bit whiter than the rest. So I have to watch it until it's totally dry, because if the paper is still damp, the pigment will move until it's dry. The real time for applying this first layer is around 15 minutes. So you can see the difference between my first brush stroke at the beginning that has diffused a lot more, and now all the brush marks I made with my fine brush, they are staying quite neat and they don't blend as much as my first brush stroke. So it's quite hard to understand how the brush or the paint will react on the wet paper, and you have to recognize every step of the wetness of the paper so that you can make those brush strokes at the right time. And now you are able to see that the red pigment has gone in my white space again. So I'm taking a paper towel to blot that area so that I stop totally the pigment to flow in it. I do not like this technique because I will get hard edges, but I will soften it a bit later. In this video I'm talking a lot about the wetness of the paper and the different stage of wetness the paper can get. But sadly I can't really help you a lot on this matter because I do it quite spontaneously and I don't have a ready-made solution for you because I'm learning also like you. But the thing that helps me a lot is to watch what I'm doing and observe the reaction of the pigment and the paper. And it's by doing mistakes that you will know you can't do that, or it's better to do that a bit later or a bit sooner. It's the way I've learned. And now it's time to soften the edges of my white area. I just take a brush a bit damp, not too much, and I softly brush around the edge, and that's it. And now my first layer is done, so I will take my paper and put it on a wood board so that the excess of water can be absorbed by the wood, and then it will dry a lot faster. Generally, it dries in 2 or 3 hours, depending on the humidity of the space. But here we are on the day after, because I don't have enough light to film during the afternoon now. So for this second layer, I'm starting with the definition of the raspberry, and for that I'm just using a circular motion to make like a small circle that will represent the small circle of the raspberry. And with a clean brush with just water, I'm blurring some parts so that it's a bit more softer. I have a red raspberry, but also a white raspberry that isn't ready yet. That's why I wanted to keep a part of my painting white, so that I can work my white raspberry. And I will work them the same way as my red raspberry, with small circles, one against each other. There's many ways to paint a raspberry. This one is one of them. But check the blog post, I put the link in the description box below. I've done another technique for painting raspberry by taking back some pigments after the first layer in order to form the small circles. For now, my raspberry are quite blending with the background, so I will add some dark layers and some leaves and branches and some element of context, so that they will pop a little bit more in my painting. As I'm using quite a lot of color now in my painting, for the dark color I will not add another color. I will use the color I have already in my painting. So I'm making a mix with ultramarine blue, permanent alizarine crimson and burnt sienna to get this very dark color. And this dark color will help me to really bring out my raspberry. It's very interesting to use mixes for dark colors, because you can always change them a little bit and make them a little bit more blue or a little bit more brown or a little bit more neutral, as you want, as you need, so that this mix is really more interesting than just black straight from the tube. In the same idea of keeping my raspberry my focal point, I'm not really working a little more my background. All the work on the background has been done in the first layer. I'm just adding some colors and some little touch of leaves here and there to get this background a little bit more interesting without perturbing my focal point. So all the color I'm adding around my raspberry are painted with the technique of negative painting. So I'm painting around the shape of my raspberry, and I can this way refine the shape of the raspberry and making it really like raspberry with small waves around them. This negative painting technique is a little bit more precise than I'm used to do generally in my painting, but there's no problem if there is a little mistake, if some dark color gets a bit too much in the raspberry. You can always add a lot of water on your mistake and blot it with tissue paper so that it will totally be erased. So there is always a way to correct this kind of error. And now I'm building a little bit more my raspberry again. I'm coming back a lot on those fruits because I'm building step by step all the layers to the fruit to be almost perfect. And I will work also with my background in order to keep the red really in front of everything else and make my raspberry pop the more I can. And the contrast of the red fruit, that is a warm color, against the bluish background, which is a cold background, this contrast will help me to bring them a little bit more even. And now let's talk about supplies. I've used a silver brush black velvet, a 1/4 inch, and a Raphaël petit gris 803 number 2. For the color, I've used Ultramarine blue, Viridian, Quinacridone gold, permanent alizarine crimson, Winsor red, Scarlet lake, burnt sienna, and at the end I will also use a little bit of white gouache. And my paper is from Arches in rough. While I'm adding a little bit more details on my painting, I will explain a little bit more why I use 3 red in this painting. Of course, you can do it with just 1 red, and I will maybe prefer the Winsor red that is a bit more neutral than the other 2. So I've used 3 red in order to get more richness in my colors and a little bit more natural effect on this color. As I said, Winsor red is more neutral red I have, and permanent alizarine crimson is a little bit more pink, and Scarlet lake is a little bit more orangey. Anyway, you can reproduce this painting with what color you want. I give the name of the color just for indication, but you can do with the color you have at home and it will be just as good. And if you want to have a raspberry in violet color, please do it, it will be fun. And to finish this painting, I'm adding a little bit more branches in the background with this brush in a dagger shape. It's a very useful brush for that kind of branches, and it's very fun to use. A little bit too much fun because I can't stop. Maybe I've done a little bit too much, but that's okay, I like it. Overall, I do like a lot this painting. It was very fun to paint, and I'm liking the composition and the color that is a little bit fall but not too much. The only negative point I can see is that the raspberries are not perfect in my opinion. They are a little bit stiff and they lack of softness. But you can go watch on the blog. I've made another version that is a little bit softer. And this video is now ending. Thanks for watching. I hope you like it. Please check the blog post to know a little bit more about this painting. And please tell me what you think about it in the comments below. See you soon.